This is it. It's finally time to yap about and analyze one of the richest myths in love and deep space so far. Grab your coats and scarves, cuties and jasmines, because we are really traveling far through the deep space tunnel with this one. From Sumerian creatures to Chinese literature and anagrams. I'm Princess Farron, and I'd love if you join me while we explore Zayne's third myth, Sacred Chapter, Edge of Continuum. Let's start off by defining the meaning of continuum, so we can have a better understanding of the scope of this myth, shall we? Continuum refers to a gradual progression or blending of things without clear boundaries, as well as an area that can keep being divided and divided infinitely. No individual particles. Also, in a mathematical sense, a continuous sequence in which adjacent elements are not perceptibly different from each other, but the extremes are quite distinct. Or a geometric object like a line segment or a plane that is both complete and connected. Maybe that's why the symbols are so important in this sacred chapter. And we can see how the title ties well with the events that take place, namely the merging of different worlds' fates and the way Zayne moves through them, as if there weren't any well-defined boundaries in time and space. As I talked about in my video of the series Echoes of Myth and Cosmos, Zayne is a being defined by a liminal essence, in which transitions occur as an ongoing continuum without clear limits. The myth starts off by mentioning a realm beyond 7 gates, Everlost, a forbidden realm where even the dead cannot tread. We immediately start off with a bang with this one. The number 7 in general, and 7 gates in particular, has many mythological connotations. They are metaphorical gateways or corridors that are most closely associated with the Sumerian trip to the Underworld, where souls walk through the 7 gates to Ereshkigal's Underworld, as well as Hinduism representing routes to heaven. Other examples include the narrative of Inanna's descent. In the Sumerian tale, Utu, the sun god, leads his sister Inanna through a specific area of the underworld to taste forbidden fruit that grants her knowledge, sex. Inanna loses pieces of her soul at each of the 7 gates to the underworld, losing her regal status as she progresses. The 7 gates of the ancient city of Thebes are another example, and a symbolic voyage to the afterlife in Egyptian beliefs, which involved passing through 7 gates, each symbolizing a step in the soul's progression towards the destination. Everything is related to what happens here to Zayne. The Bible mentions as well the 7 gates at the time of Solomon: Damascus Gate, Golden Gate, Herod's Jaffa Gate, Lion's Gate, Silwan Gate, also known as Mugrabi Gate, and now as Doom Gate, and Zion Gate. There's also the 7 gates womb journey, which is a powerful shamanic ritual. We hold a journey through 7 portals that relate to specific points in the yoni and womb, using breath, sound, and movement to connect deeply to the body, fully feeling and expressing whatever is in the way of opening each gate. So this gives more of a spiritual significance to number 7. Right at the start of Sacred Chapter, Zayne is introduced as a supreme deity, the embodiment of annihilation and divine punishment, as a god. A god. I theorized about this possibility about a year ago on my first Love and Deep Space video called Fallen Gods. Can you believe it? We finally have confirmation that the lads are indeed powerful cosmic entities, gods. We're finally getting into the realm of juicy lore revelations, aren't we? The first thing that comes to mind after seeing Zayne introduced this way is his role as the Dawnbreaker, the ice-cold Zayne that annihilates, that eliminates the Wanderers, and that performs his mission no matter the cost, even if it involves pain, loneliness, and nightmares, as we could see in his anecdote, Still in Dark. Second thing that comes to mind is a relation to MC and Caleb's relationship, as there's an element of creation and another of destruction. Have you noticed that too? Interesting, right? So we barely even started, and I have to mention yet another detail that I'm not sure if everyone noticed, but the name of the forbidden territory is Everlost. Well, that could simply mean quite literally a realm that is always lost. But I believe it's most likely a callback to the Evergroup and the lamentations they created and who are restless for all eternity, the Alterum, the Wanderers. And straight after, we have another lore drop. We learn that the Creation Stone lies in that netherworld. Now, I'm pretty sure it's the Creatio Protocol mentioned in the Foreseer Tower of Secret Smiths, the one the MC tried to steal and that Zayne eventually used to save her. Besides, have you noticed how Zayne's eyes are covered? And the enigmatic figure mentions that Zayne's divine gaze may see the end of time? Now, think with me, how could this be possible? One option is that Zayne is the eye in the sky that spies on the MC and the events of the universe. Another option, this one even more plausible, is that Zayne can do so by reading the books present in a fractal library. As for the blindfold, I think it means that his gaze is not yet set on the end of time, meaning he's avoiding to see it in order not to cause the end of it. The mysterious figure leaves the god of annihilation with one last warning. If he enters the Forbidden Realm, he will lose his divine authority and glory. In other words, he will lose his power. He will no longer be a god. Which ties up with what we saw in the Foreseer and Master of Fate myths. Zayne was more of a diviner, or at most an arbiter of fate. The fallen god's theory keeps checking, huh? And as there was no doubt about it, Zayne enters the first gate of the Forbidden Netherworld. And here we actually delve into the story. It takes place in Niava, a civilization that has MC for its goddess. She blesses the people and fights any threats that arise. All in that kingdom is under the MC's control. And that's why when Zayne appeared in scene, and semi-powerful, the MC decided she wanted him for herself. Her kingdom is blessed with two twin rivers named Urtama and Ingar. When I read these names, I decided to do a little digging to see if I could infer another meaning from them. So here's what I found. Urtama is likely a typo for Utama, a word of Sanskrit meaning highest, supreme, or most important. Ingar is derived from Old Norse. It combines Ing or Ingvi, referring to a Norse god associated with fertility and peace, with elements like Var, warrior, and Her, army, or Gir, spear. So from this etymology, we can see that this land is an important land of contrast between female and male, peace and war, creation and destruction. Although peaceful, the kingdom has been tormented as of late by black mist that originates from Vastrian. My god, when I saw this, I just really went down the rabbit hole. Have you noticed? Vastrian includes the word Astra. Astra, the one entity that supposedly torments Zayne. These cuties is an anagram. If we remove Astra and jumble the remaining letters, and then add them together again, we got Astra, which means stars, plus Ven. Ven is used as an archaic form of come, venire, in Latin derived context. So, what does that mean? It's stars plus come. Starfarer, the one who came from the stars. This is simply beautiful and poetic. The amount of detail a single name has in this game. Amazing. Everything is connected. You have no idea how excited I am about finding and sharing all these threads with you. No idea. Well, let's proceed. As the black mist attacks Niava's denizens, a golden arrow fights back. The arrow is the MC, which is actually a curious detail, as I theorize about MC being a weapon in my video titled Who is Astra? So you can check it out if you want more information and if you're curious. Back to the story. Fighting brought about consequences, as the MC is injured, her skin covered in golden patterns, and her wounds still entwined with the black mist. She is forced to call Zayne so he can heal her. She utters his name, and he materializes in front of her. Then she proceeds to bite and demand that he give her his power.
Your injuries. This is your resistance against me?
Well, once again, I have a few things to say about this. I've got lots to yap about this myth, as you probably already noticed. So, first, the coexistence of the gold threads and black mist that we see here appear beforehand in Silas's Beyond Cloudfell myth. And just like with Silas, the MC and Zayne seem to be ready to devour each other. Once again, we have the appearance of elements that symbolize eternal life, with the golden, and chaos and destruction, with the black. Besides, there's also a theme that I believe is the first time we're seeing in a clear way in Love and Deepspace. We are introduced to a notion very common in Chinese fantasy novels: wuxia, martial heroes, and Xianxia, immortal heroes. These stories in which characters cultivate to achieve immortality. So here, Zayne and the MC seem to be like two cultivators that achieved a very high power in their cores. Yes, cores, because supposedly when someone achieves a certain level of cultivation, they form a core inside them. And curiously enough, in this myth, we have the revelation that the cores, the proto-cores, are like a heart, which is totally in line with these concepts of wuxia and Xianxia. In the meantime, we see bits of what happened to Zayne in the Doom's realm. He states that annihilation balances the cosmic order, that what shouldn't exist could crumble in oblivion. Again, we have a persona akin to Dawnbreakers, set on eliminating what shouldn't exist so that balance can be restored. Zayne then proceeds to destroy a golden Anzû bird, and at the same time, another Anzû is born in an unknown part of the universe. Here, we have another connection that I'd like to talk to you about. It's to Sumerian mythology, because Anzû is a bird-like demon or a divine creature that decides fates. And if you want to dive a little deeper, you'll see how it connects deeply with this myth, because this creature is the personification of the southern wind and the thunderclouds, who steals the tablet of destinies, similar to the MC's destiny stone in this myth. No other deity wants to chase him down, other than Ninurta, a warrior deity known for hunting. After a failed attempt, Ninurta captures Anzû, ends his life, and recovers the Tablet of Destinies. So this bird-like being is part of a tale of someone who wants to reclaim their power over fate. Very much like our Zayne, right? And let's not forget, this is not the first time we see Zayne associated with birds. In his Tower of Secrets for Seer Myths, we see the Artesians, birds. They possess a long-term memory, and they also reminded Zayne of the past. And even in the Memoria Fragrant Possession, for instance, Zayne makes friends with a little bird. So being symbols of the delivery of messages between realms, it's normal to see birds so closely associated with Zayne. In the story, suddenly a snowflake drifts from the unknown lands. Worlds are merging their fates. In her tower, MC observes the Anzû spire that contains all the universe's realms within, something like the fractal library. Am I right, everyone? And this artifact is cherished by Zayne. The MC watches as the Anzû birds fly around it. She remembers when she met Zayne, how she wanted him to inscribe his name upon her destiny stone, so that their fates could be intertwined, inseparable, so that Zayne would not disappear from that world. MC remembers how Zayne tried to push her away by being stoic, but still he wasn't able. Even he feared that they might end up having to be eternally separated from each other or obliterated. Zayne, however, ended up promising that he would make her every wish come true. And we all know that Zayne has tried, right? He has tried to do so in every single one of his iterations, but due to fate, Zayne is forced to separate from the MC so she can still live. We have seen this in the Foreseer and in the Master of Fate myths. And even in our timeline, he already shows signs that he might do so again. Remember how their last conversation went while he was in the cemetery in the Death and Rebirth update? As one of the golden Aenzu birds pecks the MC's hand, she decides to follow it into the spire. There, she finds out that one of Niava's rivers, Utama, has stopped flowing. When MC investigates what is happening to the river, we meet Chimera, the current ruler of Niava, and the closest thing to a friend that the goddess MC has. As the MC goes to the origin of Utama problem, she senses Zayne's power. Initially, the MC believes Zayne is the one responsible for stopping the flow of water, but then she realizes he is actually fighting a monster, unlike any she has encountered before. It's one covered in crystals. And we all know what that means, right? It's a wanderer, a creature that is appearing for the first time in this world. So we have another sign that things are not going well. Zayne and MC join forces. They defeat the creature, which in an explosion of energy ends up pulling them in. MC feels cold and senses eternity's golden gaze upon her. A voice calling her name.
There's
and
no
the
need
voice
to
we
rush.
hear is
You need to sleep for a long time.
Zayne's. This one is an eye-opener, right? But more about that in the end. When MC regains her consciousness, Zayne informs her that they are inside the monster's protocore, which is something akin to his heart. And another very interesting detail is that Zayne declares the Wanderer, the monster, may revive himself if he consumes enough energy. Doesn't it make you think about something else? About how in our timeline Zayne is a cardiac surgeon? And about how many times the MC was revived after the energy bursts? The dots are starting to connect! In my opinion, we also have a very interesting line from Zayne when he says it's the first time he saw that kind of monster in Niava. He clearly states in Niava, which immediately makes us think that this Zayne has seen such monsters somewhere else. And now we have one of those funny little moments I always like to mention. While they're both stuck inside a protofill, MC finds some carrots and she offers them to Zayne. Can you guess what happened?
That won't be necessary. I'm leaving.
It is also here that it is clearly revealed that the protofields are shadows of different times and spaces, which makes perfect sense if you remember what happened to Professor Shaylin in World Underneath Chapter 16, Utopian Rover. She saw her family alive, living the life they used to when they were all together in a protofield, and she ended up joining them and disappearing from the present reality. While they're still in the Protofield's desert, rain starts to fall, and it soon gives way to snowflakes. Once again, the snow serves to announce that the end is coming. And here I'd also like to ask if this moment also makes you think of Raphael's intertidal zone. It immediately reminded me of it because we also have a very unusual event on it. Snow falling in the middle of a desert. This is not a coincidence, everyone. Anyway, as the snow keeps falling, Zayne starts saying that it will also melt because the destiny of all things is annihilation and decay. MC reminds him that it is annihilation that allows the existence of new creations and new life. This is a side of Zayne he still hasn't seen in himself. Just like the archetype of the Death card in Tarot, he embodies the end of certain things so that new ones can blossom, like the jasmines he loves so dearly. After they apparently solved Utama's problem and returned to the Divine Tower, MC and Zayne's relationship improved. They talk for a bit, and Zayne ends up confessing that Niava is on the brink of destruction. He also decides to give her a gift. While they go towards their objective, we learn that Zayne became known in the streets of Niava as High Priest. Along the way, there's a detail I'd like to mention because it connects to what happens afterwards. MC eats some herbs Zayne had collected, and it turns out they were poisonous. Now, the destination of their journey was a farmer's house. Zayne intended to treat their son, Nagan, who has a lump on his chest. Zayne wants to cure the child without using any of his godly power, and he wishes the MC to witness the procedure. Zayne eventually gives her the gift, which is the principles of medicine, so that humans can learn how to treat diseases and stop plagues. Afterwards, Zayne ends up giving MC other similar gifts that help Niava civilization to prosper. As we can see in this myth, Zayne is almost set up to be a deity similar to Apollo, who brought both health and plagues. But tranquility doesn't last for long. Zayne soon finds out that the monster that had stopped Utama's flow had emerged from the arrays that were meant to separate Niava from the other realm. Zayne realizes that he'll have to destroy the remaining arrays so that Niava and MC won't have to face a greater disaster, one he has seen taking place before in other realms. Determined to find out the truth, MC enters the Angro Spire again. And here we have an image similar to what we've seen in Xavier's myth, the existence of several rivers that symbolize the way to different realms and or timelines. When the MC finally arrives, the gatekeeper of Doom Realm, the mysterious entity we saw with Zayne in the beginning of the myth, reveals that the MC has already faced death and was resurrected. He allows her to see how it took place on the condition that she faces the challenges of the Seven Gates. She accepts and learns that Zayne removed his heart so that he could retrieve the creation stone and bring MC back to life. This man does absolutely everything for the MC, am I right? Even removing his heart, his own heart from his body for her. Oh, the pain, physically and emotionally speaking, I can't imagine. This also brought to mind one of Zayne's earliest tender moments, surprise encounter. I don't know if you remember, but we can see that Zayne was investigating Egyptian records of how to heal hearts, even taking notes of a story in which an Egyptian man tried to heal his wife's heart, which resonates with the medical procedures he performs on Niava, as well as with his sacrifice beyond the Seven Gates in order to resurrect the MC. It all ties together. The day to face the Vastrian again arrives. Zayne and MC dispatch all of the monsters until the Vastrian vanishes, leaving behind a fissure. After that, Zayne takes the MC to visit the place where they first met in Niava. The MC understands that Zayne is about to leave. Proving so, Zayne proceeds to try to erase his name from MC's Destiny Stone, thus cutting the connection between their fates and his presence in Niava. When the MC returns to her tower, the Angram Spire is no longer there, and there's no trace left of Zayne's presence, like he never existed. Yay! He did it again! He disappeared to protect the MC once more. And at the same time, snow starts falling in Niava. It's time to act, and MC had previously taken measures to ensure she'd be able to find Zayne again. Following the Anzû bird to the depths of the Divine Tower, she falls just like Alice in Wonderland fell through the rabbit hole. All the way down, she sees images and hears Zayne through different iterations of his life.
Follow the jasmine's fragrance.
And now comes another one of my favorite parts of this myth. At the end of the rabbit hole, MC finds Zayne surrounded by many screens and making calculations. Fellow hunters, did this remind you of another instance related to Zayne? I'll let you think for a bit. Zayne's anecdote. Still in dark. If you remember, he had all those devices set up in his house in order to monitor when a human was about to turn into a wanderer so he could put them out of their misery at the right time. He even had alarms set up. Yes, it's also sort of similar to Doctor Strange. Let's be real. Even the way he opens up portals. But let's proceed. Zayne eventually sees the MC and explains that he intends to sever Niava's connection to the world they are in so that its path to destruction won't be mirrored in Niava. Zayne also says that he could think of the place where they are now as his Divine Tower. At least for me, it reminded me of the Fractal Library, a place where the fate and possibilities of several worlds are stored. Here we could say Zayne is acting like an administrator, but in fact, he's acting as more than an administrator. He's acting as a defiant force, as the god who fights against the very currents of space, time, and destiny. All that for one reason: for the sake and well-being of the one he loves. So that they can prevent Niava's destruction, Zayne and MC must break the last array that's at the top of that tower. Along the way, MC sees echoes of people in despair, stating that their god has abandoned them. Curious, she probes Zayne for more information. And yes, here we get another lore drop that connects to the main story. More precisely, to the world underneath Chapter 12.
This world, humans had no names, only numbers. Those individuals pursued maximum efficiency and discarded everything they deemed useless or detrimental to their world's progress. They worshipped the principles that would make this place perfect. Those who mastered the most fundamental and profound principles were called gods. In that regard, it's very much like your Niava. So, the gods used their principles to bring their world longer lifespans and endless happiness. Time passed, and in the eyes of humans, gods were omnipotent beings who granted every request. So eventually, they demanded eternal life. Wishes went unfulfilled, only shattered hopes and disasters arrived. To humanity, the gods became bringers of obliteration.
As we can see, this is the story that the administrator presented as his favorite in the Fractal Library Q&A. Those weren't just imaginary ones. They were real, and this is the proof. I just love how all the puzzle pieces are starting to fit together beautifully. Aren't you feeling the same? As they finally managed to fight off a wanderer Aenzu and disrupt the array, the tower started crumbling down. That world is about to be obliterated, and Niava is free from the same fate for now. I believe all this, the two worlds that are connected and about to share the same fate unless they are severed from each other, is meant as a precise mirror to Zayne and Amc's relationship. Their fates are interwoven unless Zayne separates from the MC, and that's what he does time and time again so that she can leave. Let that sink in. They love each other dearly, but if they persist together, catastrophe is sure to hit the both of them. And the thing is, both of them would rather die than let the other one suffer. As we can see, as Zayne's power is about to fade, this time it is the MC who sacrifices for him, granting him her power and slowly turning to ice. I don't know if your tears also turn to ice, but even if that's the case, there's something else I want to say about this scene, besides the snow globe reminiscent of Zayne's last birthday card. And let me know if you also thought of that. Do you remember that scene when we see Zayne sealing something in ice? Initially, I thought that could be him hiding an entrance or dislocating the entrance to the Fractal Library. But now I wonder, could the Zayne we see in that scene be the one of this myth, ready to meet the frozen MC again before the snow stops? Could the frozen MC be what's hidden behind that wall of ice? What do you think? And in the epilogue, we have the mention of a lone Anzû bird that stretches his wings. I think this scene also echoes the death and rebirth story updated, when we read about the pair of wings that flew from the cocoon. Now the question is, how are they related, if indeed it turns out they are, in fact, connected? And of course, at the very end of this myth, we got back to my beloved Fractal Library, and we see that one of its books has a melting snowflake on its spine. Meaning, the time for Zayne and MC's re-encounter is finally approaching. So, thankfully, despite all the angst, we get a little flicker of hope right at the end.
Yes!
Not bad as far as these myths go, don't you think? Now, before I leave you to ponder over all this, there's one more subject I'd like to yap about for a bit. That is Astra. As you've probably noticed, there was no specific mention to Astra, or of Zayne being tormented by another being. In fact, despite Zayne being the god of annihilation, there's not even a mention of any sort of punishment. Even the diseases in the world of Niava are not viewed as divine punishment. The only detail that alludes to Astra is the Vastrian, which I believe, as I said before, is meant to be an anagram for the one who came from the stars. I actually made a video some months ago about the mysterious character titled All We Know About Astra. I collected all the info we had at the time to try and understand who or what Astra would be in the story. However, in the meantime, and after the more recent story update, another possibility emerged. And it's the possibility that Astra is not actually real, but is a persona created as a sort of coping mechanism by someone who constantly deals with conflicting ideals and missions. By someone who came from the stars. By someone who travels through time and space. Someone who watches from space. Of course, I'm talking about Zayne. I can't be 100% sure that this is actually true, but it's a possibility that's becoming more likely as we get to know more about the story. As a matter of fact, I believe I also mentioned this in the video about death and rebirth as well. So, what do you think? Could this Vastrian be a nudge to lead us to the fact that Astra is a part of Zayne? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know if I can discard this possibility as a red herring, or if in fact we'll have to face that reality sooner or later. Anyway, I loved this myth. I think it is the most jam-packed in terms of lore, and it couldn't have been more delicious, at least for me. And if you're like me and you also love the lore of Love and Deepspace, you can check out these videos. I'm also working on a Greek mythology series for all the love interests, and I have plans for more series in the future to explore their lore, personalities, and more. This is Princess Farron signing out. Take care, good gaming, and may your snowflakes melt soon. Bye!